Hello, welcome to Data Ethics 101. I'm Emily, your lecturer slash tour guide for this evening. As you can see, this talk does involve dinosaurs. Let me just get rid of my Spotify notifications, thank you. One, because who doesn't love dinosaurs? And two, there's actually surprising links between data ethics and a certain dinosaur movie that involves the recreation of dinosaurs, which you may have just seen before. So I spoiled the surprise, but that's okay. Cool. So as I mentioned, I'm Emily. I'm the lead engineer at Multitudes. However, my background is actually mostly in data engineering. In a startup, you wear many hats, so I've kind of am a software and data engineer, do a lot of everything. At Multitudes, we produce engineering insights that aren't creepy to help create happier and higher performing teams. So we churn through a lot of data from Linear, GitHub, Jira, PagerDuty, etc., crunch all those numbers and provide software teams with ways that they can improve team collaboration and performance, etc. So as you can imagine, we process a lot of data. We also process a lot of sensitive data, a lot of data that could potentially have an impact on people's lives, on people's jobs. So therefore, data ethics is super important for us. We're really, really passionate about it. So today I really wanted to share with you how we think about data ethics, why it's important, as well as how we utilize it in every day, our data ethics principles, and how we actually apply them in our product. So without further ado, welcome to Data Ethics. As mentioned, yes, there's going to be a lot of Jurassic Park references and dinosaur references, which will make sense in a little bit. So, there we go. Cool. What is data ethics? You may have heard of the term before. You probably know what data is. You probably know what ethics are. But what actually does data ethics mean? I can actually move away from this now that I've done the music. Cool. So, data ethics is the moral obligations of gathering, protecting, and using data and how it affects individuals, with the emphasis on moral. So, not impacting people in a negative way, ideally creating positive impact for people, but also it mentions gathering, protecting, and using. Not just the use of data, but how do we gather and protect data in a way that is ethical and that helps people. So we know what data ethics is, but why is it important? Well, in the world of the fast adoption of AI, ChatGPT, LLMs, massive public data sets, it's so easy to spin up data models, solutions, products for customers, for end users, for your company that impact people. But much like the scientists in Jurassic Park, the scientists spent so much time thinking about if they could, that they didn't stop to think if they should. It's very, very easy, as we all know, to get up an AI model. It's relatively cheap-ish, and have that out to production impacting customers tomorrow. But we need to stop and think about, okay, we can do that, and we're data engineers, we're scientists, we love the idea of, was that me? No. Weird sound. We love the idea of solving a problem, of making something really, really cool, but we need, really need to stop and think, should we actually do that? I really, really love this quote, because data is us. So this is from Dickie Fada. My data is a living essence. It tells the story genetically about where I've come from, who I am. That's telling a story of me, a story about my whakapapa, right down to my belief. Whether we like it or not, our data tells our story. Therefore, us, as the data engineers, the data scientists, we're the custodians of this data, and we need to make sure that we're protecting it of the people that own it. Additionally, I'm sure we're all very aware of the cases of data ethics gone wrong. So Cambridge Analytica basically harvested a bunch of Facebook data from users without their knowledge, and they used that to sway the elections of Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. They used that to target advertising to the people that they took all the data off. And we all know how that ended. Not great, big scandal. And it just really goes to show that they really should have thought about whether they should be doing this. Additionally, Facebook really should have had the protections in place to stop people from doing that sort of thing. But I know what you're thinking. Emily, that's great. Data ethics is important. Totally get it. But I am a humble data engineer. I don't have any sway in this. That's the legal team, the security team. That's not me. But we're the ones with the power. We're the ones creating the data pipelines. So even though, you may feel like you don't have any power, you've got to be the one to say, hey, maybe we actually shouldn't be doing that, because the people higher up aren't necessarily thinking about that. You need to be the one thinking about the people and how it impacts them. Because, as we all know, data is just numbers. And just like the scientists in Jurassic Park, we wouldn't have had the dinosaurs without them. So the data is meaningless until we, as data scientists, engineers, and data people, create the pipelines, the technology, and the ways to actually derive value from it. So we're the ones creating that, therefore we need to be the ones that are helping to ensure we're not harming people. Okay, so we know it's important. We know that we need to have a say in that, but how do we do that? It's this massive term. It's kind of scary, but I would like to introduce you to a little something that we have learnt about at Multitudes, which is called Indigenous data sovereignty. So based on the principles laid out in the UNDRIP, which is the United Nations Declaration of Rights for Indigenous People, which said that Indigenous people have the inherent right relating to the collection, ownership, and application of their data. Unfortunately, as things go, Indigenous people have been the ones harmed most by poor data ethics. In New Zealand, our Indigenous people are Māori, and traditionally surveys have been done about them in their communities. The government's taken all of the data and then made decisions about that without actually including the Māori people themselves, leading to poor outcomes for them. So Indigenous data sovereignty sets out to improve that for Indigenous people, and it actually lays out some really, really good data ethics principles. So at Multitudes, we took inspiration from the Indigenous data sovereignty movement. However, we're by no means experts in this. We very much are standing on the shoulders of giants, of the people who actually worked hard and trudged the path to get this done. At the end, I will provide some resources on how you can learn more about Indigenous data sovereignty, but it's a really excellent work that's been done, and it has inspired our data principles thus far. So without further ado, what are our data principles? Number one, we give people control over how their data is used, autonomy. For example, at Multitudes, we process a lot of team members' data. We give people the option to opt out of Multitudes. They can choose to opt out individually. We will never process their data. We will never show their data. They have control over that. As well, we give organizations the ability to have their data completely deleted should they want. We don't store data for our own machine learning or analytics purposes. We will completely erase the data from an organization when they have left our services. This is a really good thing to manage for both your customer. It also turns out helps for things like GDPR in Europe, where you have to be able to delete data of an organization. So we'll store data in a way that makes it easy for us to delete data very quickly for a given organization or person. Number two, reciprocity. We only collect data if we can give people value from it, which I know it's really easy to say and a nice thing to have, and we all think we're probably doing it, but in the world of really cheap storage and S3, of really fast data pipelines, GPUs, etc., it can be really easy to just store a whole bunch of data and not actually necessarily use it, and then potentially later on use it for maybe not so great purposes. So for this, do you really be needing to store the gender identity of your customer? If you don't need it for your product, maybe you shouldn't be storing it. Additionally, storing personal data kind of comes with overheads, right? We're talking privacy, security concerns. You've got to have maybe some regulations in place. So if you don't need to store personal data, maybe just don't, and then it's so much easier for you. So not only are you thinking about the ethics, you're also making it much easier for your team, storing less data, everyone's happy. At Multitudes, we think very carefully about all of the data fields that we store. Additionally, we don't just take all of this data from teams and only show it to the CTO. We really encourage everyone to be on the product, and we've built the product for team members first, with then CTOs, managers being able to come in and look at the data so that everyone's getting value from it. It's not just one person taking all of the data and showing it, not to the whole team to get benefit from it. Number 3, collective benefit. We want to use data to create a positive impact for people, for our organizations, for the world around us. As I mentioned, data is super ingrained in our everyday lives, so how can we use it to do good things? Again, at Multitudes, we really focus on this. When we're looking at a new feature, we will look at what kind of impacts it could have. If those impacts are negative, how can we mitigate that? How can we potentially eliminate that? And if we can't, we don't build the feature. For example, one big thing at Multitudes that we've had a lot of discussions about is individual performance metrics. So you as a developer, you write lines of code, you create pull requests, you make commits. Some companies would love to be able to see how many lines of code each developer writes. And we've heard of stories of companies doing that, stack ranking developers and then hiring the bottom 10%. We never ever want that to happen. We never ever will do individual performance metrics. This is not creating collective benefit for everybody. And we've even said no to some pretty big customers because they explicitly wanted us to do it. So we really do stick by these values, and we've created a product that works for everyone. So not only do we create good data ethics, we also create a good product that everyone enjoys and loves. And it's also become a bit of a competitive advantage for us because a lot of companies have been burned by developer tools like these in the past. So we can say that we never show this. We're very much all about the team and the collective benefit. Number 4 is context. We support people to put data into perspective. As we all know, data can tell wonderful stories. It can also tell completely wrong stories. So according to this graph, votes for Republican senators in Massachusetts is very strongly correlated with Google searches for Velociraptor. To an unsuspecting person, we maybe would think that people who vote for Republican senators are also really interested in dinosaurs, which, I don't know, maybe they are. But we as data people would probably say, well, correlation doesn't always equal causation, the classic statistics term. But do your end users know that? Do they have that level of data literacy where they can say and make assumptions for themselves based on that? Maybe not, maybe they do. So we need to supply the contextual information around the data to ensure people can put it into the perspective and draw the right conclusions from it. For example, at Multitudes, we supply data, but we really use data as the starting point. So we say here's this insight, it's going up, it's going down, it's trending well. But here's the questions you can ask your team. Here's the things you can think about. Here's the experiments you could do. So we're starting the discussion around the data and allowing the teams to figure out what the data means to them. They're not just looking at a singular data point and basing everything off that. So really put data into context for people. As your organization, you will have your own context, and you need to help people do that. Additionally, and unfortunately, there are systems in this world where the data is created and stored, and traditionally those systems haven't really created good outcomes for creating good solutions for marginalized people based on the color of their skin, their gender, disability status, and more. So we're working in the system, and we need to think about how we can use data to not continue to perpetuate the existing systems that surround us. So lastly, the icing on the cake, accountability. We encourage people to tell us when we've made mistakes. So we couldn't have this one without all of the others. We could say we have all these beautiful shiny data principles and not actually follow them. The best people to tell us if we are following them or if we are making mistakes is the people whose data it is. So we really encourage our customers, our friends, to tell us if we're doing something wrong, if we could be doing something better. And that inherently denotes the product we create, the company we build, and the people that we are. Additionally, I welcome feedback from all of you. If you've seen something in this presentation that you're like, maybe that could be better, we're totally open to feedback. So accountability is huge because you need to be able to accept feedback from people whose data it is to be able to make change. So our 5 key principles are autonomy, reciprocity, collective benefit, context, and accountability. With these 5 principles, we use them every time we make a new feature. We will put this new feature through each of these individual points and talk about how this feature either benefits or doesn't help us towards each of these principles. And we discuss ways in which we can make it better to meet these principles. Jenny, one of our data scientists / data engineers, is here actually and does a lot of this work. So we use all of these to denote whether we will actually build a feature and how we will build it. Now, we're a very small team. We've been around for 3 years. There are 6 of us. We have very tight deadlines. We ship features very quickly. We're usually shipping, releasing every week, usually doing features once or twice a month. But we still have time for data ethics. We still invest in that. And additionally, it's made our product so much better. Our customers really trust us and trust our knowledge of this area. They trust their data with us. And we're making a much better product for everybody. So if we can do it, so can you. Now that's right. Cool. So as I mentioned, there's some resources. I am not an expert in indigenous data and sovereignty. I'm just really passionate about it. And we really loved learning about it. We've done a couple of workshops. I've read a bunch of books. But if you are really interested in this topic, I would encourage learning from the experts and the people that are living it day to day. So Te Mana Raronga is the Māori Data Sovereignty Network, has lots of really good resources. Shouting Zeros and Ones is a great collection of papers on digital technology, ethics and policy in New Zealand. It was actually written by my TA at university, funnily enough. New Zealand's a small place. Then the kind of crux of Indigenous data sovereignty is Indigenous data sovereignty toward an agenda. And if you liked what I talked about with our data ethics, we do have a multitudes blog post that you can read more about that. And then, as I mentioned, we did a bunch of workshops. Atawai Tibble is an excellent force in this area. He does a bunch of policy work to help bring Māori data sovereignty into companies. And really, we're just so lucky in New Zealand that we are the leaders in this space. We have some amazing people and policy advisors, etc., that are leading the way of Indigenous data sovereignty, in particular Māori data sovereignty. So yeah, really awesome to be in New Zealand, having that leading the world on these topics. So that brings me to the end of my lecture and my tour. We are, as data people, the ones who curate the data, therefore we have to make sure that we're looking after it. So please invest in data ethics and let's not unleash dinosaurs on the world. Thank you very much.